Square.
Massive protests, collective bargaining, schools shut down. There has been a lot going on in politics the last few days.
Well, if you're feeling a little lost in all this, you're probably not alone. UW political science professor David Cannon here try to break it all down. And I know over the past couple of days you hear from both sides and things get a little unclear. Why don't you just define the argument as public employees see this issue?
Okay, well, there are a couple, I'd separate into two parts, the economic part and the political part. On the economic part, I think most people are in agreement that clearly something needs to be done. We've got this budget shortfall, we've got to close the hole, and most public employees that I've talked to, and I'm a public employee too, and I know I feel this way, we have to chip in our fair share, that we should pay more for our pensions, we should pay more for our health care, and that's something that I think most people recognize there's an issue there that has to be addressed, and we all, will chip in on the economic side. Where the reaction is more on the political side, and there it's losing the collective bargaining rights over everything except for salary. And this is something we've had 50 years of history in Wisconsin of Democratic and Republican governors alike of having collective bargaining rights for public employees. And so losing that, I think, is really the big thing that they're concerned about. And then also the perception that the governor really is out to destroy the public unions with the annual certification elections, with the dues provisions. These are the things that the public employees are, I think, really upset about, is losing their voice in the process. And then also on the political side, the way this is being pushed through. I think Fred Risser said it, captured the sentiment of the people opposed to this when he said the governor's acting more like a dictator, not a leader.
The governor has claimed that he is not union busting. How are people? I mean, people are seeing it as such that he is. Truly, what is he doing?
No, it does appear, I think, to any outside objective viewer of this, that it does appear to be union busting. That, if he was just doing the economic side of trying to close the budget hole, then that's not union busting. That's tough negotiating. You sit down with both sides, and then if you have to impose the pension payments and the health care payments, so be it. But you still talk, you still sit down, you still negotiate. And so to strip away the negotiating rights and to then have the other provisions that really will amount to the death of public unions, probably, I think that is objectively union busting.
You hear folks in the private sector, and we're in the private sector, and they'll say, I really can't sympathize with that because we're paying a heck of a lot of money for health care and all that. But do you think those in the private sector, we're all going to see repercussions from this when you have thousands of public employees who now have to take their earnings and pay more for health care? They're not going to be going to buying cars and appliances and things like that, or maybe going out to eat less often, which is going to result in layoffs in the private sector and companies cutting back and all that sort of thing.
Well, right. I think there will be some economic repercussion, as you say, with the reduced salaries. There will be, it's like a tax basically on the public employees, and that will have the effect that any tax would have, which is to reduce the amount of money that people have to spend. So it definitely will have that effect. But in terms of the private sector's concern for or sympathy for the public employees, you actually saw quite a few private sector unions also on board with the public employees yesterday down there protesting, recognizing this is the right of collective bargaining is something that all union people and most working people, I think, have a sympathy for, even if they may not agree that that the public employees shouldn't pay in more of their salary. I think there is more sympathy on the political questions.
If this does get pushed through, the energy that is out there with the protesters is just beyond charged.
Right.
What kind of backlash could the state see?
I think there could be a big backlash in 2012. If you look at the electorate in the last couple election cycles, it's been more volatile than normal. We had in 2006, 2008, big sweep towards the Democrats. Then a couple months ago in the midterms, an even bigger sweep back to the Republicans. I think if the governor and the Republicans push this through, they could be looking at an equally big sweep in 2012 when the Democrats are well organized, the unions are going to be up in arms, and they're not going to forget about this.
Boy, you really have something to talk about in class, don't you?
Yeah, boy, it's just the most intense political scene I've seen in the 20 years I've lived in the state.
Oh, wow.
Professor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Much for coming.